Good morning, welcome back to BT. Many families carry unresolved pain across generations, and some conversations, they just never happened, and some words were never really addressed. So here to share with us some different ways how we can start to repair and heal family relationships is parenting expert Vivian Meraki. Good morning, Vivian.
Hi, good morning.
This is a tough topic.
It is.
Because sometimes it's just never really talked about, and then it just gets passed down, and it's never talked about. So when it comes to certain topics or circumstances, why do many adult children why do we feel so guarded?
I think there's a few reasons. One is it wasn't taught or modeled. And another one is that sometimes love felt conditional. So love felt like it was earned through accomplishment, maybe grades, obedience, actions. And when that happens, you feel like maybe I'm not loved for me, but I'm loved only when I'm doing something. And so that can leave someone guarded because then it feels conditional. So if I start showing up or doing something different, am I going to get mocked? Am I going to get judged? Maybe disapproval? And that can leave some scar.
Do we see that in the hierarchy of the family? Even firstborn, secondborn, and it kind of goes down the list because there's so much responsibility put on the firstborn.
Yeah.
I even see that even now having a family of my own, the responsibility that's put on the firstborn because they're the first one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're not maybe as strict or as strong on the other two. How do generational values though, and let's say unspoken rules that we don't talk about shape like communication within the family dynamic?
Yeah, I think it's really common for families to have unspoken rules. Things like don't talk back. Sometimes that one's even spoken, right?
Yeah.
Or don't make us look bad. And so those rules can really shape and help when it comes to societal or cultural context. But then when it comes down to the family unit, for the individual, maybe their needs go unmet. Maybe their feelings aren't taken into account and it feels like I don't matter. And I think that's the heart of it. And what that does over time is it erodes that individuality, it erodes the individual connections between family members because it doesn't feel like you've got my back. And so that can lead to disconnection.
And then what are some signs where we're just like, okay, there might be an opportunity to talk about some stuff, to even start that healing process? And I always like to call it that scar tissue that maybe hasn't been scratched for a long period of time, because once it is, it does bring up old memories.
Yeah, I think that the thing from my perspective that's the most important to remember is at the heart of it, everyone wants connection. And at the bottom, families actually do want to connect. But apart from that connection is a desire to change and a willingness to listen and to make the changes that are necessary. And so without that, the issue is that you might come up against defensiveness, you might come up against a lot of the old patterning. But when there is at least a willingness, then at least that's the start of being able to have the conversation, to acknowledge what has happened, and for both sides to start taking accountability for their part of it.
It's just so easy to go to the past and not focus on the present and into the future when it comes to the family dynamic. So where do we begin? How do we repair those conversations without kind of pushing some of the limits and the boundaries? Yeah,
so I really, if anyone wants to look this up, it's called nonviolent communication. And from my perspective, because I'm a somatic coach, so I always start with regulation, start with you. Start with where you're coming from, because even confronting the conversation and wanting to have it can bring up a lot for people, and it can be really nervous and anxiety-ridden. So that's the first thing, regulate. And then the second thing is ask for the conversation. So we're not just jumping in. Sometimes people can feel ambushed. When they were raised, they felt ambushed by things. So we don't want to do that to the other person. So we want to ask for the conversation. What you're doing is you're inviting consent for them to say, yes, I actually want to engage with this with you.
Even with this one, for ask for a conversation, is this in a social setting, or are we specifically setting a time and a space for this conversation?
I think it's the latter. You're setting aside a time and a space that's dedicated to having the conversation, where both people feel ready and prepared to have it. And then the third thing, when you start getting into it, is anchor it to yourself and the experience you had. Ask for what you want. So for example, it might be something like, I want a better relationship with you. This happened and it affected me in this way. Would you be willing to? And then ask for what you want the shift to be. And then allow the other person to respond. And that's the next one, is let them respond. And the response there that is hard is that anything aside from a yes is actually a no. So if they're deflecting, if they're dancing around the topic, if they're talking about a lot of other things, if they're changing the subject, it's a no. But it doesn't necessarily mean no forever. It just means not right now, and maybe they're not ready. And then give them the time and space. And then for you, you can set a boundary in terms of what that means around what you want to do next. And then lastly, you get to decide if that felt like a repair for you. And it may be that these are, you know, a number of conversations that take time, and you can revisit at a later date. And these can be things that maybe they're ready later on, but they need the time to think about it as well.
So we're talking even apologies, and what makes those apologies land?
So the way I think about apologies, and I coach a lot of my clients and actually their children on this, is I break it down into what I call the 3 A's. So first is attention. So you want to put the attention on the other person if you're apologizing and not make it about yourself. It's about them. Something I say a lot is it's about impact over intention. What was the impact that was had as opposed to the intention that you had around it? The second thing is, apart from the attention, is actually the accountability that I did whatever it was that I did and acknowledge it. And then the last one is action. What am I going to do to make this a change so it doesn't happen again?
Do we have to say sorry? Does sorry have to be a part of an apology?
I think that sometimes sorry is inferred, but it's much stronger if you actually do say sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
To hear that, because then
To
you
say,
know what
I'm sorry.
So then what are some micro repairs that really build some momentum once you've kind of made it to this process?
Yeah, so I think of micro repairs in the course of, you know, sometimes it's not these big moments, but it's the little consistent actions that we take. And so sometimes it's catching yourself in the moment and saying, oh, you know what? I didn't mean the way that sounded. Can we have a do-over on that? Or sometimes it's in the moment feeling really heated and then taking a pause together. And then sometimes it's recognizing what happened afterwards, feeling bad, and actually following up with the person and going back to it.
You might have to do this more than once.
That's right.
So going back to the initial 6 steps that you had.
Yeah, exactly.
Fabulous. It's not easy.
It's not
right?
easy.
But I'm assuming you coach a lot of people through these, and you just feel so much better and so much clearer.
Yeah.
Where can we find more info, Vivian?
So I'm on Instagram at Vivian Meraki, TikTok as well at Vivian Meraki, and my website is vivianmeraki.com.
Wonderful. Thanks for the chat.
It's my pleasure.
It's a good conversation that we all need to be having. Let's get over to Rick Campanelli with a look at pet celebrations on this.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, Vivian, great stuff right there. Thanks for coming in.